Hi, before we begin this week's episode, we just wanted to mention our quick sponsorship from Tom Verris, who is an author who has recently released his new novel, Before I Won. Now, this book explores his unique life experiences growing up in the streets of the Bronx, and I've read it, and I really enjoyed it, didn't you, Harry?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was great. Before I Won is both emotionally relatable as well as a fascinating read. It's a nice, fast-paced book for anyone not keen on long, lengthy novels.
Yeah.
And it proved really motivational, at least for me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a really nice quality to it. And Tom's writing is easy to read, so it's not real dense. So if you're not big into books, you'd probably still enjoy this. And he really strives you to work hard and push ahead even when the times are hard, and it's definitely motivational and encouraging. So if you are interested in this book, please be sure to check out him on Amazon via the link in the description. That's all from us now. Please enjoy this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the After the Bell podcast. This week we have Leonora, who is a film fanatic, and like Harvey and like myself, we have picked out 4 of our favourite films to just discuss and sort of describe and try and encourage you guys to watch them if you haven't, because we think these are great watches.
This is definitely a film episode, all about films. We're talking old films, new films, and like you said, we've picked them and we would really recommend them.
Yeah, 100%. But firstly, just to tie back into the school sort of element to the podcast, because that was the underlining premise of the podcast, and I feel like we've gone a bit off topic
we have
recently
strayed a little bit.
Yeah, but which is fine because school isn't actually happening at the moment.
Still not happening.
Still not happening. Yeah, 3 months down the line. So, how have you been finding the homeschool life recently?
So what are we now? We're 12 weeks in, something like that.
Something like that.
I'm struggling for motivation, really.
Yeah.
Just working, I'm struggling with. I am getting work done, but it's taking a little bit longer than usual. It is.
Yeah.
You've just started. Well, we both started. Going into school, haven't we? For once.
Yeah. So our school's doing this thing where we go in for one half an hour or an hour session with each teacher.
Yeah.
So I think there's just 2 of us at a time that go in from each class, just to sort of have that face-to-face sort of aspect to the school life, so we can discuss any problems we've been having or anything.
Yeah, which to be fair has been nice.
It's been refreshing to see
other people.
The school and the teachers and the people, but personally I don't really see the point of doing it because
such a short length of time.
We don't get anything done in that. It's not as if we're going back for an actual lesson. We're just going to discuss what's been happening, and we've done everything else over email, so why couldn't we just do that over email?
True.
But to be honest, I'm not complaining because it gets you out of the house, which is something that's been very limited at the moment.
Yeah.
But
hopefully this episode will be nice for you to listen to while you're doing schoolwork, something like that. It's something relaxing. Yeah. It's a fairly casual episode, not as much an interview or anything like that. So
no.
We hope you enjoy. Hi, this week we have Leonora joining us to talk about films, as spoken about in the intro. And the way we're gonna work this is everyone sort of picked a film, and we're going to talk about it, discuss it, what we liked, what we didn't. These are films from the last 50 years. Some are new, some are old. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Leonora, how are you feeling coming on?
Very excited.
Are you? Well,
yeah.
You like films, don't you?
Yeah, I love them. I much prefer them to TV series. I like films.
That's one thing we haven't talked about in this episode. We don't talk about TV series, but I've always preferred films. What about you, Harry?
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of TV growing up, but then since I've got a bit older, started gaming a lot more, I don't really have time to sit and watch a series of shows every night. So film works better for me in that sense because it's just one sitting, sort of, and I can feel more hooked to it as well.
I mean, for anyone who's listening and doesn't know me, I'm a big film fan, and we all like films here, so it should be a really good episode. Leonora, let's start with your film. What film have you chosen to talk about?
Midsummer, which...
Okay, Midsummer. I've
Yes.
seen this. Harry, don't think you've seen
I
it.
haven't, no.
Leonora, you need to try and persuade Harry to watch this because it's so good.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it came out last year and it has Florence Pugh. Is that how you say her last name?
Yeah.
Florence Pugh in it. And it's like a psychological horror. Definitely a horror. But
yeah, definitely.
It's like basically a group of people go to this... Is it in like Sweden or somewhere?
Yeah, northern Sweden.
To like study this cult. Like it's very like folklore and stuff like that. And it's just how things kind of spiral downhill. And yeah, everyone... Oh wait, I don't want to spoil the ending. But
No. We won't spoil any endings for this because... So I've seen Midsummer.
It's hard to describe a film, isn't it, without like sort of saying how it ends, because that's sort of the whole, plot.
I mean, this is one film that is really hard to describe anyway, what happens. To give a little bit of context, it's set about this sort of relationship, isn't it, between Florence Pugh's character and like her boyfriend, and it's failing. And that's sort of like this, like the stereotypical thing that's happening throughout the whole film, but it takes a much darker turn. What did you think to the ending, Leonora?
Without spoiling it. It was very, like, just intense, because everything builds up to it, like in the... where it happens, like... everything just builds up to it, and then how it's shot is, like, it's beautiful, really. The
really
whole
nice.
film's really nice to look at. I've seen some people say like it's their comfort film, which is kind of insane.
Comfort film?
Yeah.
That's weird considering it's a horror.
Very weird, yeah.
It is a proper, like, messed up horror.
Yeah.
In fact, it's one of the best horror films I've seen.
Yeah.
So, is it,
Put that out there.
from what I've just gauged from what you two have said, so it's two people in Sweden...
Well, yeah, it's like a group, but yeah.
Who, like, are falling out of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what is the horror element to that? Because...
I mean, I would say the horror element is this tribe, which has a lot of sort of unsettling rituals. I mean, this isn't exactly a spoiler, but one of the characters gets their face smashed in with a massive hammer. Is it a hammer?
Yeah.
It's like a big... Okay.
And, like, there's a scene which is a ritual of, like, the tribe when two, like... Well, they're not that old. I think they're, like, 60 or something. And they're on, like, the top of a big cliff and they jump off it. And then, like, it's a couple, like, an elderly couple. And the woman dies, obviously, when she jumps off. But the man, like, just dislocates his leg or breaks his leg, I would say. And then they smash his face. Oh,
this isn't based off a true story, is it?
No. Actually, I was interested how was it inspired, and it is partly based on like true traditions and stuff, but definitely not to that extent.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say.
So the writer and director, so he wrote it, directed it, is Ari Aster. Don't know if you've heard of him. He's done one film before this called Hereditary, which, funnily enough, before we came on record, me and Leonora were talking about how much we liked it. But he did a lot of research into like Swedish folklore. So it's got a lot of folk music, like a distressing amount of it. And some of the odd practices he's just like out of medieval history. He's just took and then put in this modern setting. Definitely worth the watch. I think you can watch it on Amazon Prime if you have that.
Can I just ask where, like, how old is this film, did you say?
It came out last year, I'm pretty sure.
Right, so did you watch it in the cinema or after it released?
After it released. I would have loved to seen it in the cinema, though, just for, like,
I would have loved to see it in the
cinema. So when you don't watch these horror films in the cinema, do you just, like, sit on your own on a night in a dark room watching it, or do you, like, watch it during the day? Because for me, I'm not a massive fan of horror films, because I don't know, they've never really... appealed to me, but like when would you watch them? Like,
Well, I
are you
mean,
scared of being scared?
I think if I remember correctly, I was gonna watch it on like a night at like 11 or something. I was like, maybe I should wait until tomorrow because I don't want to scare myself too much. So I watched it in the daytime, like just in my room.
Yeah.
It's one of those. What's quite weird about it is it's a horror film set in like bright daylight. So there's no nighttime scenes particularly involved that are spooky. And that sort of made the headlines originally because it's like horror's never been done in like full daylight. So it's not creepy in that sense, but it's just utterly unique and visceral. And by the end of it, you wonder how the hell did you get there?
Yeah. Like, how did they think of something like that? It's
sick and twisted. But Harry, you have to see it.
Yeah.
Like if there's one film you're
I'm
gonna
honestly
watch.
gonna give this a watch. I'm surprised it's during the daytime. When you were describing it, you just automatically picture it nighttime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there's a few scenes in the night, like something to do with sleepwalking. I can't quite remember, but definitely most of it's in the day because that's like
Majority
the whole.
in the daytime.
Yeah, it's like the whole aesthetic of it all. It's all like.
Yeah.
Do you think that takes the horror element out of it and it feels more like real?
Yeah.
I feel like a horror sort of, like if it's set at nighttime like most of them are, it sort of just feels automatically like it's fake because you know it's fake because like it's the whole stereotype of it being at night. But if it's during the day, that almost feels like more real. Like that kind of stuff does happen during the day too. So like I don't know.
I mean, when it comes to horrors, it's not anymore. I think we've gone past that sort of jump scare, like typical, like someone wandering like a corridor dark at night. It's got to be something new and original now to actually attract like proper horror fans in. But what would you rate this, Leonora? Let's do out of 5 stars. What would you give this?
Probably 4.5.
4? What was the part you didn't like about it?
It was very gory. I can think of a scene where the boyfriend of Florence's character like walks into this barn, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a very gory image in front of him.
Yeah. We're gonna have to get off this now because you could so easily spoil this, and that's what makes it so good. Let's go on to Harry. What choice have you brought? Which film have you brought?
Yeah, well, if you know me, then you know my love for Back to the Future has been apparent since I was about 6. I think I've probably watched all 3 of them over 10 times now, which is a bit excessive, but I think it was my dad, because during primary school, my dad had always sort of like influenced like my music taste and my film taste from like what he liked,
right? Which
was different to like obviously what all the other kids liked at the time. So I was into like the Beatles and like old bands when I was really young, which I think is a bit weird. So I was also into like the old films, and I don't know what it was about Back to the Future, but it just really like it just caught my attention, and I just loved it ever since, and it's always been at the top of my film list, and I don't think it'll ever be overtaken by anything.
Is it your favourite film of all time?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I've probably seen films that are like better than it in terms of like how it's structured and everything, and like the budget, but it's just like the memories that come with it, and like the sentimental value I have attached to that film that just makes it like better than everything else I've seen. And you're gonna ask me to describe it now, aren't you?
I'm gonna ask you to describe it.
So hard.
One sentence. Try and describe what it is, because it's such a classic. I've seen it, but like Leonora, you haven't seen it, have you?
I've partly seen it, but I couldn't tell you like the storyline.
Just give us like the briefest explanation.
It's 3 different films. So it starts off with this late like teenage kid in high school in America in 1985. And he's friends with this old sort of scientist guy who's a bit crazy, and he takes him to this like parking lot one late night, and he tells him that he's like discovered time travel with like this flux capacitor thing, and it's built into a car, so the car is a time machine, and basically when he gets up to 88 miles an hour, he can with whatever like date and time he's put into the machine, he can go there. So basically it's just a film about time travel. But upon time traveling, he like obviously runs into problems with like messing up the future and the past, and like he goes and sees himself from the past, and he sees his parents from the past.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
And like he does things that he shouldn't do. Like he gets a betting manual, like with all like old betting, like what happened with different bets from the past. So then he goes and like, and that gets into the wrong hands of this like bad guy, and then he makes the bets, and then the future's altered, and it's all about him just like going to these different times and trying to revert them back to how they should be.
Yeah. I mean,
there's 3 different films where you go to different dates on each of them.
I see. I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen the other 2, but I enjoyed the first one. But it's probably like one of the best like family films if you want to sit down with your family and just watch a funny, witty film that is still good today. That's what's so good about it.
Yeah. I think the first one's definitely the best out of the 3 in my opinion. I think it goes 1, 2, 3 like a lot of sagas do. But it's just for its time, I think it was very advanced with its visual effects and its because you got to think this was closing in on 40 years ago now. 35 years ago. So like obviously your technology is limited, but I think they just did a really good job of. I think at the time it was way ahead of its time. Yeah. Obviously now it isn't, but
it's such like an American classic sci-fi film. I was reading about it in preparation for this episode, and apparently they had quite like a fractured shooting period. So the actors weren't on board, and there was problems with money, and often that happens with a lot of some of the old films that turned into like massive successes. They have such a problem getting like greenlit. So thank God this was. I mean, it's inspired so many other films, and I was just thinking when you were speaking then, it's almost like Rick and Morty. Like, that must have stemmed off some of the concepts involved.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the main actor, Michael J. Fox, fell ill not long after filming the last Back to the Future. I think he's got Parkinson's now, so he hasn't really been in many other films. But I thought he was a great actor, and like if he didn't get ill like early in his life, I think you would have seen him in like a lot of films. I think he'd have been sort of your up there with your like Tom Hanks and your Adam Sandlers in terms of that like genre of film.
Are you gonna watch this, Leonora? Because you've got to see. You've got to have at least seen this fully once.
It's
in
just
your
a
life.
classic. It's like you can't not see it.
Yeah, if you say it, everyone knows like what you're talking about. It's just like even I know like a lot about it, and I've barely seen it. So
yeah, I mean, it's still so relevant today. You'll see people like dressing up as like, is it Marty McFly? Is that
Marty McFly? Yeah,
with that like orange red puffer jacket thing.
Yeah.
So many references to the car. If you like films, you've just got to see this one at some point in your life.
100%. I feel like it's almost just like Toy Story. It's like everyone's seen it, surely. Yeah. And if I come across someone who hasn't, I'm like genuinely surprised.
Yeah, what are you doing? So we'll move on to my choice of film now. So I really like films, so I've been thinking which one to pick. Because there's so many I could choose.
Thousands.
Yeah, I mean, I've never got any problem with like watching any specific genre. As long as it's a good film, I'm happy to watch it. But the film I picked was released, I think it was late last year in America, early January this year, and it is The Lighthouse. Harry saw this with me.
Yeah, right? With you.
Leonora, you haven't seen this, but you've gotta see it. Like, it's basically about these two lighthouse keepers in the 18th century. I might be wrong. Might have to correct myself on that. Stuck in a lighthouse at sea, and they're going mad. Harry, what did you think of this?
At first, I didn't know. Sort of, I believe it's based off a true story.
I think there's definitely elements of truth.
Yeah, there's so at first you just told me we were going to see like a black and white film. So I was a bit, it is black and white. So I was a bit like spectacle about it at first. But honestly, after like a couple of days after seeing it, like when I first left the cinema, I was like, that was weird, but alright. But then when you start to think about it more and think like what different scenes mean, I think it definitely has like a deeper meaning to it, and it's definitely strange, but like it's definitely very clever at the same time if you know what you're looking for, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'd recommend it to you, Leonora, is because it's like it's a great horror film, and you quite like them, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's got Robert Pattinson in, Willem Dafoe, and so two great actors.
Yeah.
And they're both like, to me, like Oscar-winning performances in it. It's written and directed by Robert Eggers, who made The Witch. Anyone seen that?
I haven't, no. Don't ask me about horrors. I've barely seen any.
Okay. But that was proved really popular, and this is sort of like it gets a lot from like Greek mythology and like folk tales out at sea. And for someone who's sort of interested in anything mythological, it's got all those things you want in it. It's so simple as well. Like it's literally just the one setting, the lighthouse, and those two characters with the whole other thing. Is there anything you didn't really like about it?
I think if you didn't pay attention for 5 minutes, I feel like you'll definitely lost. It had like a cyclical nature to it, but in the same sense, each different like segment was different.
Yeah.
And there was no time scale on it. You as the like person watching, you didn't know if they'd been there 2 hours or like 4 days.
Yeah.
Or like 4 months. You literally had no clue.
It's definitely a film, like, I bought it. Like, I've bought it on, like, Apple TV or whatever it's called, because I wanted to watch it twice. And when you watch it again, you see more things. The music's great in it. The characters are great. Acting's great. Cinematography is amazing. In fact, it's even Oscar nominated for that. So that just shows you, yeah, how good it was. And then as they lose their sanity, it transforms into a bit of a... He's just all over the place, and like you don't know where it's coming from. But that's what I like in a film. But if you didn't, maybe it wouldn't be something you wanted to watch.
Do you know if it won any Oscars, Harvey?
It didn't. No.
Oh.
It's just.
Was it nominated for many?
No, literally just cinematography.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I think it was because it was a smaller film and it was more sort of art house. It wasn't commercial. I mean, how many people do you know have seen it?
To be fair, I don't think it had a large budget either.
No,
did it?
No, it definitely didn't. Not for a film.
No.
I mean,
so what was the budget for it? Like,
I think it was off the top of my head, either 9 million or $15 million.
Really?
Now that sounds
a lot, but for a film, like, do you know the Avengers one off the top of your head?
Avengers is like 150 million.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even a small film nowadays, if you don't have 5 mil plus, you're not going to be like doing anything with it, really.
Wasn't it shot? Well, obviously, it was shot in black and white, but with like a different proportion as well.
Yeah, it was shot in. That's what probably makes it like people don't want to watch something in black and white where it's in a square
black bars,
format.
Yeah.
It was shot on like traditional film as well, which is a little bit nerdy actually, but it's like has the grain and the to replicate how you would have seen things back then. It feels so authentic, so moody and atmospheric.
I'd be interested to see the behind the scenes for that film actually, because I feel like it looks so different in contrast to like the final product. Obviously, when was it filmed? It was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it came out last year, but it'll have been filmed probably 2-3 years ago. But when you watch it, it could have been filmed 200 years ago. Like,
literally.
It gives off those vibes. I'm going to give it 5 stars. There's just nothing it could have done better for me. Would you agree, or?
I'd give it a 4.5. I think 5's very generous in my like personal ratings, because there's films I've seen out there that I wouldn't give 5 stars that I thought were better than that. But that's you're looking at it from like a cinematic point of view, from like the you look at films very differently to like the average person watching it, because most people, like, if like people listening to this podcast like went and watched that, who just like sit down, watch a film and like go on their phone and like They just watch the film for the sake of doing it. They wouldn't like that film. They'd look up and they'd think, like, what is this? This is awful. It's black and white. What are they doing? But, like, if you actually are invested into it and you, like, care about what's going on and, like, appreciate a good film, then I think you'd really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm, definitely. For our fourth film, Leonora, do you want to talk about this one? This is, like, one we've all seen, and I'm pretty sure we all enjoyed it. What is it?
It's called Uncut Gems, and it has Adam Sandler in. And it's basically... Oh, I don't
It's
really
not a
know
comedy, though.
Well, it's like a dark comedy, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have elements of comedy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess not the standard Adam Sandler film.
No,
But
definitely not. And he's like a... What do you call it? Like a seller?
Like a...
Jewelry seller.
Yeah, jewelry dealer.
Yeah. And, like, he's got this really... Black opal, is it? Like just this really cool jewel. And,
Precious, expensive gem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this basketball player comes in and he's like, I want it. And then he has it's hard to follow, like, the film, but it is good.
I mean, to give a little bit more...
Yeah.
I mean, it's this guy, Howard Ratner is the guy he plays. And he's in New York, and it's all about it's sort of like big money and big stakes in terms of basketball players coming to buy gems, but he owes money to someone, and someone wants to kill him because he hasn't got enough money, and he still hasn't paid his debt, and he's chasing around, and it's so sort of confusing at the same time. It's almost stressful, but it is good.
I think the main point is the fact that the opal is worth a lot less than he thinks it's worth.
Yeah.
And he puts it up for auction, and the basketball player goes to that auction, and the basketball player only wants it because he thinks, like, it's linked to him playing well. When in reality, like, it's like sort of just a myth that or a superstition, if you'd like say it like that. That he needs that to play well, and if he doesn't have it, he won't play well. And obviously basketball players at the highest level are very rich, so he could afford to pay like hundreds of thousands for this opal. But even he won the bid, but he lost the bid to one of the main guy's friends.
Yeah.
Outbidded him. But
Yes.
then he had to pay him back, and then he got into even more debt, and then he gambled the money on like a basketball game.
There's so many just twists and turns.
Yeah.
And but it's like, what is the value of it? The value is sort of what they make of it. So this guy's thinking it's so much, but it actually isn't. But then there's a lot of, like, he thinks it's lucky, and it's sort of confusing but clear at the same time.
I think it's definitely one of the most gripping films in terms of, like, you can't predict what's going to happen next.
You don't know where it's going to go.
Each scene, he's in a different place, he's, like, with a different person, in a different debt, in a different, like, it goes like the emotions. It's like 1 minute he's, like, ecstatic, he's just won millions, and then the next minute he's got, like, nothing. It's like, literally, you've got no clue.
Yeah, even in, like, the last 10 or, like, 5 minutes, it's just unpredictable. I loved it.
The ending's controversial, to say the least.
I mean, I think it's great, actually.
Really?
I like it. I mean, even my dad watched this, and he was like, oh my God, this is going to give me a panic attack all the way through. And then the end, he loved. I don't know why, but I liked it too. I just want to spoil it, but we can't.
I only knew what was going to happen about 5-10 seconds before it did. Before that,
really?
And literally, you can, like, be the most intelligent person to do with films, and you wouldn't have known what was going to happen at the end.
It's completely unexpected.
I didn't even know until, like, it happened. I was just like, oh my God.
This film is directed by Josh Safdie and Benny Safdie, the Safdie brothers, if anyone's heard of them. They made the film Good Time with Robert Pattinson in. So, but this is better than that, if you've seen that. It's on Netflix. It was released last year, I think. I've got to give it another watch, though. because it's one of those films. A few months later, I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Same, to be honest. Thinking about it. So, what rating would you both give it, if you had to?
Probably a 5.
Out of 5.
I would say a
5.
5. Yeah.
Would you 5?
Yeah.
I'd go with 4 for this one.
I think I'd go with 4. I think, sometimes I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was so stressful.
It was
I had
very
subtitles on.
Yeah. They spoke very like Bronx, didn't they?
Yeah.
Set in New York. They spoke like very. I don't know if it was Bronx or like any of the others.
Well, they're all talking
very-
over each other as well.
Very New
Yeah.
York accent.
It just makes it really real, I think.
It felt
like-
so real.
Yeah, it literally felt like you were following a guy around, just like living his life, but like in a film sort of way. Because I feel like that probably does happen. There
Yeah.
probably are like situations like that guy with like jewelry, selling like but like dodgy jewelry and like in debt with like different people and running from
definitely.
different people. It'll happen with hundreds of people there.
I mean, I recommend this to you, Harry, and I'm glad I did because you enjoyed it. And,
Yeah.
It was definitely a film to check out. Anyway, I've just looked at the time. We're pretty into this episode. So we should probably round up here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no TV and film of the week because that's kind of what the whole episode.
Imagine doing another film on top of this. I've enjoyed this. Have you, Leonora?
Yeah, it's been good to talk about films and
Thanks for
everything.
coming on.
Thanks for
I
having
just
me.
like sharing my opinions on
You
stuff
could
like
talk
this.
for hours about films, couldn't you?
I
You
definitely
both probably could.
I have.
Yeah, you have to me.
Yeah, it's just nice to hear, if you like films, to just talk about them and check out the ones we've mentioned because they're all really good.
100%.
Yeah.
And that was us talking about films for a long length of time. I hope you haven't switched off. Well, obviously you haven't if you're still here. And I hope you found it interesting as well because it's something we're really passionate about, as you can tell.
Yeah, we could definitely talk about this subject for more than half an hour, but
Yeah.
to keep it to the same structure as all the other episodes, we've had to cut it short.
We did. But yeah, I hope this has encouraged you to watch these films. They're all great, so please do check them out. Once again,
100%.
you can check out our social media, After the Bell Podcast, on Instagram. You should, because any updates on episodes are all on there. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Be sure to check out the book Before I Would.
Yeah.
Amazon link in the description. Other than that, we will see you guys next week for another episode.
See you on Friday.